Here we go. This Mouthpiece Monday, we are tackling the one question I probably get asked the most. Now, you've heard me use the phrase technical diving before, and you've probably heard me drop in other videos that I am a technical diving instructor. But what is technical diving? Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome to Divers Ready. My name is James. It is so fantastic to see all of your smiling faces out there in YouTube land. If you are new to this channel, welcome. As always, we make hints and tips videos for certified scuba divers with one simple goal in mind: to help make you a better diver. So if you haven't done so already, consider to make your next dive on that subscribe button. Click the little bell icon so you don't miss any of our awesome content. And you are not going to want to, because we've got so much fantastic stuff lined up for this channel. For example, as a sneak peek, we are going to Bimini in the Bahamas later this month. We're going to be shooting a bunch of videos there, so keep your eyes peeled for those. Also coming up, we have the hashtag Ask Divers Ready. Your chance to ask a professional dive instructor anything you wanted to know about the scuba diving industry, about this channel. So jump on social media, tag us with hashtag Ask Divers Ready, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. In addition to that, we have the DEMA show coming up next month. If you're not familiar, that is the largest scuba diving conference on the planet. We will be there, we will be making videos. On the community tab of our YouTube channel page, I put up a poll this week. We've already got like over 100 votes, it blew me away, asking you, what content do you want us to make at DEMA? What are you interested in? We very much want you to have your say in shaping this channel and the videos that we make. Okay, so on to today's topic, technical diving. This is actually going to be part one of a two-part Mouthpiece Monday. The reason being, when I was scripting out this video, I got a little carried away and it ran to like 5 or 6 pages. I know some of you are surprised that I do script my videos because it sounds like sometimes I'm rambling like a crazy man all the time. So instead of making one 35-minute video that no one's going to watch, I'm going to snip that in half and do part one and part two. So in this part one, I'm going to be answering the question, what is technical diving? And later in this video, I'm going to be dispelling 3 common myths about technical diving and putting some truths out there, as has become my habit. Later in part 2, which I will link up there when it's complete, we will talk about 5 signs that you are ready to start technical diver training yourself. So what is technical diving? What do we mean by a tech dive? Well, the simplest way that I can explain technical diving is it is any dive that is planned and executed beyond the limits of recreational diving. So in order to understand what a technical dive is, we need a little refresher on what the limits of recreational diving are. So the first limit to recreational diving is your depth. If you are an advanced certified diver with a deep diver specialty certification, you are allowed to dive to a maximum depth of 130 feet or 40 meters. So anything beyond that depth is considered a technical dive, and it should be trained for, planned, and executed accordingly. The second limit on recreational divers is your total distance from the surface. Now, wait a minute, James, isn't that depth? Well, no, what we're talking about here is how far you can go into an overhead environment such as a cave or a wreck. And that is limited by your total distance to the surface. So for example, if you want to explore the inside of a wreck as a recreational diver, and that wreck is at 30 meters or 100 feet, you are allowed a total distance to the surface of 40 meters or 130 feet. So that means you'd be able to go 10 meters in or 30 feet inside the wreck. You're also limited on recreational dives by the sunlight and how far that penetrates into the cavern or wreck. So in other words, you can't go out of sight of natural light. And the last limit on recreational divers is time. How long you can dive for. And that is limited, of course, by your no decompression limit, which is the amount of time that you can spend at a given depth breathing the gas that you're breathing, be that air or nitrox, without incurring mandatory decompression stops. So how do technical divers get away with going beyond these established no decompression limits, depth limits, and penetration limits? Well, let's go back and look at each one in turn. And please remember, as always, I am not teaching anyone to scuba dive through the internet. I am not giving anyone permission to turn a recreational dive into a technical dive. That is not a thing. This is purely for entertainment and your information only. So first off, how do technical divers go deeper than 40 meters? Well, the key decision here in deciding how deep a technical dive can be conducted is the breathing medium, i.e. the gas mix of choice. Now, if you'll remember from our nitrox video that we posted a couple of weeks ago, the deeper you go, the leaner your gas mix has to be. In other words, the less O2 percentage. Okay, that's great. So that brings us down to air, which is 21%. But what if we want to go deeper than air will allow us to dive safely? Well, that's where helium comes into play. Now, helium is an inert gas and it is absorbed into our body. So when it comes to off-gassing on our ascent and we need to release that nitrogen and helium that's absorbed safely, we still have to factor helium into those calculations. But helium has another very important advantage, and that is it is non-narcotic. Therefore, it reduces narcosis. This is important because the deeper you go, the greater the cost of any errors you could make, and therefore a clear head when technical diving is essential. In addition to that, they need to come up with multiple decompression schedules, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and they need to plan the volume of gas that they're going to carry to make sure that they don't run out of gas during their dive. My point there is it's not just about being able to sink better. Yeah, we want to hit depths, but we also want to come back from them safely. So how do technical divers explore further into caves or deep inside the belly of some of these shipwrecks? This is when you hear technical divers start to talk about soft ceilings and hard ceilings. A soft ceiling is your hypothetical decompression ceiling, i.e. you cannot go shallower than this depth without risking getting the bends. A hard ceiling is a physical obstruction between you and the surface, i.e. the roof of a cave or the interior of a sunken ship. So to go beyond the light limit and to go deeper inside these overhead environments, there's a number of factors that need to be considered. First and foremost is teamwork. This is always a team sport and roles need to be assigned. Second thing a technical diver needs is solid line handling skills, because they're going to use a reel to mark their path into and out of the overhead environment. And then, as with the deeper, they need to plan their gas consumption in regards to a three-dimensional environment. So how do technical divers exceed the no decompression limit safely? Again, there's a few different factors to consider here. Number one being they need to consider gas physics and human physiology and have a really in-depth understanding of both of those topics. They need to know what's happening as gas is being absorbed into the body on descent and at depth, and then released from their body with every exhalation that they make on ascent. And then secondly, with that knowledge, they need to apply it to create a decompression schedule. This is a series of stops and times that they're going to make on their ascent, which is going to allow you to release that gas in a safe manner. There's a lot of maths involved. Thirdly, we also make use of decompression gas. These are typically rich O2 gases, and therefore, if they're rich in oxygen, they are lean or light in nitrogen. Now, by breathing these gases, that encourages the nitrogen that's absorbed into our body to leave our body in a fast but safe manner. Now, that all sounds cool, and I just threw a heap of buzzwords at you, and I can feel all of you alpha females and males out there starting to salivate, but let me be as clear as I possibly can. Decompression is always a planned event. If you're doing a recreational dive and you exceed your no decompression limit, you are not a technical diver. You are just a shitty recreational diver. That is not how tech divers operate. If you allow that to happen, if you don't have that kind of control, then you're not ready to go tech at all. Now, that all sounds like a lot of maths, a lot of science, and a lot of expense involved. So what's the payoff? Why bother doing tech dives? Put simply, I consider being a technical diver to be a privilege because we get to go and explore these dive sites, these caves, these wrecks that very few divers get to see. Just here in Florida, we have hundreds of miles of caves and hundreds of shipwrecks that are simply out of reach of the recreational diver, that they'll never get to experience unless they accept the challenge of becoming a tech diver. So, as is becoming my habit on this channel, let's dispel some myths. Here are my top 3 myths that I hear about technical diving all the time and my opinions thereof. Number 1, tech diving equals commercial diving. Maybe not so much with divers, but when I tell people who aren't divers, oh, I own a technical diving company, they presume that I'm an underwater engineer. That's commercial diving, that's completely different. Those guys are crazy. What we're doing as technical divers is still for the purpose of having fun, it's still recreational. Commercial divers are out there to make a living as an underwater engineer. Now that doesn't mean that commercial divers don't use some of the same techniques that technical divers use, especially when they're hundreds of feet down at the bottom of an oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico or the North Sea, for example. Myth number 2, tech wreck. There's often confusion between all these terms, so let's straighten that out right now. You have technical diving, which is also referred to as tech diving or tech diving or tech diving. That's all what we're talking about today, technical diving. Then you can have recreational diving, which is sometimes shortened to wreck diving. Then of course you have wreck diving, which is diving on a shipwreck or artificial reef. So you can do a tech wreck dive or you can do a wreck dive, but you can't do a tech wreck dive. Confused? You should be. Myth number 3, can't we all just get along? Okay. So here in South Florida, we have a bunch of dive sites that are accessible to both the advanced open water recreational diver and make great training sites for technical diving. One example would be the Spiegel Grove, probably my favorite wreck in South Florida. And quite often I'll be out there on a charter boat with my technical diving students, and there will be advanced open water students doing recreational dives on the same wreck. And we'll be kitting up with all our tech gear, dressed head to toe in black, looking serious, doing all our pre-dive safety checks. And I'll catch a glimpse of a recreational diver's face, and I can see that they want to ask us questions like, what are you guys doing that's different from what we're doing? Because I've got a single L80 and a jacket style BCD and we're going to the same wreck. And I totally get that. But what frustrates me is they kind of give you that look and then they kind of just go, okay, you know. And they don't come over and ask us questions. And that's because the reputation of technical divers is one of being somewhat a prickly demeanor, not approachable or not friendly or not welcoming. And I absolutely hate that stereotype. So, hashtag AskDiversReady. If you've ever been on a boat with technical divers and they haven't answered any questions satisfactorily, hit us up on social media. And I don't think that it's because the personality of the technical diver is mean. I think about all my friends who are techies and, you know, they're all fantastic people. It's just that technical diving requires a certain focus. So when we're on the boat, we've got a hell of a lot of expensive equipment that we need to check and prepare, and a whole series of pre-dive checks that we want to get through. And we frown when we do them, and we focus, and we're, you know, singular in our goal and our minds are set. And that can sometimes put out that kind of like, oh, don't go near them, they're not approachable kind of aura. By all means, if you see me on a charter boat, come over and ask any questions you want to ask. I'd happily talk you through my gear setup or what we're doing for the day, absolutely. Just maybe, you know, choose your opportunity wisely. Don't ask when I'm in the middle of my pre-dive safety checks or something like that. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my introductory guide to the topic of technical diving. Don't forget to make your next dive on that subscribe button. Click the little bell icon so you don't miss part 2, where I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 signs that you yourself might be ready for the challenge of technical diver training. Right here, I'm going to put a playlist with all of our other Mouthpiece Mondays, and just below it, I've created a playlist for newly certified divers. Things that I wished I'd known as I was becoming a diver. Until next time, my name is James. This was your Divers Ready Mouthpiece Monday for this week. Dive safe, dive often.